collecting scum. I haven't made videos for a long time, but I've just got a bit of kit through the mail and fitted it to a new rifle. I'm pretty bloody excited about it, so I thought I'd make a quick video to show my American friends what we're getting up to down here in New Zealand. Now, if you go back into the channel, one of the early movies that I made was about the L1A1 self-loading rifle, 7.62 loading rifle, self-loading rifles. We've got quite a few of them here in New Zealand. They are an ex-Army, ex-Navy, Air Force stock. They've been out in the civilian market now for about 25 years, I suppose. But they are very, very popular amongst the service rifle shooters. And I've been drifting backwards and forwards between shooting 7.62 and 5.56. Ordinarily, the last couple of years I've been doing service rifle shooting and putzing around kind of shooting with the AR-15A2 with a Trigicon, and I was pretty impressed by the results. It has all the advantages of 5.56, it's light, it's very little recoil, carry much more ammunition, etc, etc. But in the last 2 years I've been shooting with some friends who are also keen 7.62 guys, and we've been pushing the rifles out and shooting at range. There's a couple of video clips of us shooting these types of rifles with iron sights at 600 yards and achieving hits on steel, sort of a torso-sized steel targets in some quite adverse wind conditions as well. And recently we've been shooting the 5.56 and 7.62 side by side at those ranges, starting off sort of at 400 metres, pushing out beyond 600 metres, and trying to develop the ideal service rifle comp and optic combo. One of my mates has a heavy barreled version of this rifle. I've just got one, it'll be here in a week or so. It's called the L2. Back in the day, the Australians, New Zealanders, we had this rifle as our standard service rifle, but there was a heavy barreled version with an integral bipod that folded down and fired off a 30 round box magazine, and it had select fire, and it was used as a second line service substitute like machine gun to augment our GPMGs, mainly for use with non-infantry units. I've just located an unissued one. I believe it's the only unissued one that was released to the civilian market. It's full auto, but with a very, very small modification we can take it down to semi-auto, and I can use it then for service rifle and just putzing around shooting. The rule here, if you have machine guns, and we are allowed machine guns if you've got a collector's license, you're not allowed to fire them. It has to be converted to semi-auto to be able to use the rifle. So, what I've done is, a mate of mine had an ELCAN. He was shooting it off an Imbil FN with an aftermarket bipod and getting really, really great results. He also has a suppressor which he stuck on the thing, and that quietens it all down. It's a really good rig. So when I was in the States recently, I picked up a Spectre. This is the 1.5 to 6 times magnification. I think it's the best optic that's out there, I really do. I'm just blown away by the results of shooting my friends. It's got the combination reticle set up for 7.62. It's configured for 7.62 ballistics, and it also has a red dot as well for the close-up social work. So in my estimation, it's a better bet than the Trigicon. It has a wider field of view, and just generally, I think, a superior optic. The combination of the optic with a decent self-loading rifle, and this is a new barrel, it's been refurbished. It shoots extremely accurately at 600 metres, and I'm starting to push out now, climbing towards 700, 800 metres, and this optic is going to be the thing that makes the difference. But one of the things which I lacked, and my friend Emery in Arizona ordered and sent out for me, was the appropriate mount to put the ELCAN on. DS Arms has this thing, it's called the Extreme Duty. I believe the designation is SA58, and it allows for the provision of a Picatinny rail with the dust cover that slides onto the top of the receiver. And as you can see from the screws there, it's retained by 3 sets on that side and 2 on this. And this thing is absolutely rock solid. There's no flexing, there's no movement, and it's just a really strong, durable mount. So the combination of this mount, this optics on a decent rifle like this means that I'm right back to where I started. It's kind of back to the future as a 7.62mm guy. The performance of the round at ranges in excess of 400, and we've, as I say, we've shot these things side by side, 5.6, 5.56, 7.62, side by side, pushing out to 600 metres. The 7.62 above even 300 metres just blows the 5.56 round off the range. If there's any kind of wind, the effect on the 5.56 is really noticeable. And at 600 metres, really hard to get anywhere within the target frame, where the old 7.62 just more or less ploughs along in a straight line. And the auditory feedback when you get a 7.62 smacking into steel, you can tell immediately there's just a shitload of kinetic energy retained in the round in the way that there isn't with the 5.56. So I'm perfectly happy to have a rifle that's a bit heavier than the, quite a bit heavier, let's be honest, than the AR family, just because it gives me versatility at short range with a red dot, and then way the hell out with a decent optic like the ELCAN. And I think, again, the performance of the rifle, when we put it on the L2, the heavy barrel variation, with the integral bipod, we're going to see it being pushing out well up past 800 metres. And this is with shitty surplus South African ammunition. There's nothing Gucci about the ammunition at all. So the performance of the rifle, what it's capable of doing, is really surprised me. And it's not just me, the other guys are shooting these types of rifles as well. We're all getting pretty consistently good results. So those of you who are considering the 7.62 platform, I really would go with it. I'm a real fan of it. Up close, it will do the bloody damage. The fact that the rifle's heavy, you cannot shoot it rapidly like you can with an AR-15 means that there's a kind of de facto fire control, fire discipline that's imposed on you, and the round is just that much more capable out at medium and longer ranges than the 5.56. So right across the board, I am in love with this thing. I shot the Scar Heavy when I was in the States recently in Tulsa. Very impressed with the rifle, but the cost of acquiring one, bring it into New Zealand, I don't think the performance is going to be any better than I'll get out of the old 1960s vintage L1A1 SLR, so I probably won't bother with it. So that's sort of where we're at the moment. And the other thing I wanted to show you is this Browning. This I bought quite some number of years ago. Originally it was set up in a kind of an old school blue, not the royal blue but the light blue, and it was quite gorgeous, but it had some watermarks and it had some sweat pitting around the trigger group. So we had it stripped down and looked at reblowing it, but it just wasn't going to, that wasn't going to work. The pitting was too bad. Components are fine, barrel's fine, shoots well. So I gave it to my mate Tony from Red Dot, who's a bit of a Gucci custom paint guy, and he turned it round and brought it back as a two-tone paint job, which I think is just a vast improvement on what it was. And again, we'll see how we go. One of the 5 SLRs may end up with one of Tony's custom paint jobs in the camouflage New Zealand DPM pattern. We'll see. So that's about it. That's all that's really happening. A few things, the World War II stuff, I'll get off mask and make some videos at some point, but this is just because I'm excited to have my new rifle. Hope you're well. Talk to you soon.